5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to Two Fandom Friends, the not so stereotypical nerd podcast. My name is Salva, and joining me, as always, is the lovely Chantal.
Hello, everyone.
So, how you feeling? You doing great? We're struggling.
I'm struggling so much.
See,
School,
here's what I
school's
noticed.
kicking my ass.
So it's funny because we record every episode we record 2 weeks before it's actually released, right? So every episode that I have recorded to this day, like the one that comes out today, is episode 4. And in that episode, we had just finished midterms. And we were both struggling. And I'm pretty sure we talked about the same thing last week, how we were both struggling. And this week it's like
We're both struggling.
we're both struggling.
Yeah, well, that's school life,
You know what's crazy? I just had the other day my first. Hello? I can hear you on the other side of the door.
I can't.
Sorry, I didn't know if it would pick up. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, the other day I had my first in-person live. I'm gonna turn this off because it looks weird. There we go. My first live presentation. It went.
I can see my reflection in your glasses.
I know. I was just gonna say. I'll go like this.
It looked fine with the light on.
Did it?
Yeah.
It just seemed very glaring. Maybe I need to angle it a little out. There we go.
I
Okay.
can still see my reflection in the glasses. It was fine before. Like the reflection wasn't there. It's still there.
I'll just shine it in my face. How's that?
I can still see it.
Well, you know what, Chantal? You can deal with it, okay?
It's all I can look at.
Anyways, so I had my first live in-person presentation that was worth like a lot. And it was one of those like presentations where my teacher's gonna pick like the top 3 and then they're gonna present to the client. And the entire time, because everyone's exhausted, we're all so tired. We have so many things to do. We were all like, you know what? I feel like we could definitely aim for 4th place. You know, it's still good. It's not good enough to be in the final presentation, but still good, decent, right? But I have a feeling we're going to present to the client because based off of what I've seen, the other presentations, I gotta say, I don't know. I don't know. No offense to those people. I'm sure they worked very hard on their presentations. I just feel our group worked a little bit more harder. And also, when our teacher was asking us questions, she only asked us like 2 questions, whereas every other group, she was like grilling with questions.
Yeah, is that time of the year where everybody pretty much gives up?
Basically.
I've given up. I
Have you?
am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chantal texts me every day. I've just given up on life. And I think you sent me a TikTok the other day where you're like, I give up. I'm gonna eat myself and be done with.
Yeah,
Don't
I was
actually,
like, I'm not gonna hand in any of my assignments anime. I'm just gonna drop out. Every day
just
I'm
be
like,
done
this
with
is
it,
it.
and
I'm
that's
done.
it. You're like, I am done. I mean, here's the thing. I do feel like everyone we're burnt out. I think we're all a little exhausted. And we're recording this a little bit earlier today only because I have decided to pamper myself and get my nails done today because I feel like I deserve it. After everything that we've been through, I deserve this. So, yeah.
Yeah, you do deserve it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pamper myself a little today, and then after immediately
So
panic.
you're telling me the reason why I couldn't sleep in on this Wednesday morning was because you had to go get your nails done.
Yeah,
Oh.
Exactly.
Ah.
I texted you yesterday and I just said I had an appointment. I didn't elaborate because then you'd be like, that's a
I
stupid reason. Um,
I was okay. So I finished my assignment. Well, I didn't finish my assignment, but I'm ahead of schedule on one assignment. So I was like, you know what? I'll start the other assignment. So I didn't get to sleep till 3 a.m. I'm so tired.
but that's your fault. You should have a more like steady sleep schedule.
No, no. Here's the thing. I have so
Okay.
many assignments due.
Yeah, I know.
These two assignments I'm doing are 15-page essays, which isn't technically a lot, but it's still a lot considering when they're due because I didn't have time to start them because I had other assignments due.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that was the thing that we were actually talking about with one of our teachers the other day because people are still trying to find their internship placements. And they're starting to panic because we have 2 weeks till we're done the semester, a month until we actually are supposed to start our placements. But they're saying I don't have time to actually apply to places because I have 30 assignments to do. Like they were like the workload, considering the fact that we are literally trying to apply for jobs, the workload for this semester does not make sense, considering it's part of our program. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for me at least, the workload isn't very well distributed. Like the beginning of the
Mm-hmm.
semester, there's like
Easy,
nothing.
breezy. It like
There's
flew by.
nothing. And then in the last like 2 weeks is when all the professors assign the final big assignments. Like they might mention it at the beginning of the semester, but they don't release the actual instructions for it
Mm-hmm.
until like 2 weeks before. And then it's always the
Yeah.
biggest assignments and
Worth the most
we
marks.
worth the most marks. We have exams to deal with. Um, I have an exam on my birthday. So
I
tragic.
know. We mentioned that
But
last episode.
but we also have exams to deal with. And then we have assignments for all classes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's too much work all at once, especially because they're the biggest assignments, which means there's the most amount of
Yeah.
work to do them.
Yeah. I think this episode actually comes out the week after we're done exams, so
Well, you'll see us more relaxed next next time.
in 2 episodes we'll be
In
more
2 episodes,
relaxed.
we'll be relaxed because this semester will be over.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should like we're obviously talking about Moon Knight today, but
Yes.
next week is our big Christmas episode.
And we haven't decided what movie
We
we're
haven't
watching
decided
yet.
what movie we're watching, so we'll figure that out.
We
And
have a few ideas floating around, but we haven't just set on
yeah,
a movie yet.
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
But
I'll draw names out of hat.
that works. Whatever works. Yeah. But yeah, that's our big Christmas episode is supposed to be like the fun, relaxing one, but in the back of our minds, we're still going to be super stressed with exams.
But to be fair, less stressed because my assignments are actually worth more than my exams, so I'll be fine.
That is true. Yeah. Yeah. Do we
Yeah.
have any updates?
I'm tired.
I mean, that's a given, yeah.
That's it.
I'm trying to think what came out in the news. Again, this is going to be 2 weeks late when you guys hear it. Um, Nothing really that pops out.
No. New shows are coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Shows are ending. It's about that time of year where shows are finishing up their seasons.
Yeah.
New shows are starting. That's it.
New shows are starting. Okay, I guess we'll like get into it. Yeah, okay.
Spoilers.
Spoilers for episode 4 of Moon Knight.
Spoiler alert, you have been warned.
My favorite episode of Moon Knight.
I honestly really loved. I know why you love this episode so much. But I really loved this episode.
I did too. I actually took notes because I love this episode so much.
Oh, did you? You came prepared.
Do you wanna
I'm
do you
not
wanna
prepared.
hear the very first note I wrote?
Okay, go
Which
ahead.
which is funny but so true.
Okay.
Layla is a badass. Right off the bat, this woman,
Yes.
she gets it done.
Right
And
from
she
the episode, like
knows.
opening scene of the episode, she's there.
Literally. Like, oh my
Um,
God. And then Steven's standing there, he's like, what? He's
like,
he's like so
what?
impressed, but also like what the hell?
Oh, he was so cute in this episode. I
He
love
was.
it. Oh my God. Okay. Um, okay, so Layla kicks ass, right?
Yes,
Obviously amazing.
obviously.
So then they go to the dig site that Haro and his cult
Crew.
people
Yeah.
are in. And it was the entire episode, I was like, oh my God, this reminds me so much of The Mummy, and I want to watch The Mummy now.
Oh my God, I had the same thought. Literally the exact same thought. I almost watched it, but then I'm like, I'm home alone in a place that's very creaky. Makes a lot of sounds. Do I really want to scare myself at the moment?
I don't think you do. No. No, but yeah, the entire episode, I was like, I really want to watch The Mummy now. I think I'm gonna watch it tonight. Maybe I'll watch it when I get my nails done.
While you're getting your nails done?
Yeah, you just prop up the phone. I just hand over my hands, like this, and then they get my nails done.
Oh, I don't.
It's actually, can I just say, the place that I go to is really nice because I usually get waxed there and side rant. And they give me the remote and they're like, you can put on Netflix wherever you want. And that's what really helps soothe the pain while I'm getting waxed.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
they're really
don't.
great.
I don't get wax, so yeah.
Anyway, sorry, that was a side rant.
I'm very bad with pain, so I don't do
Yeah,
anything
I
that can
know.
even remotely
You
cause
wouldn't,
me any pain.
yeah. Anyway.
Anyways, so Layla's a badass. Steven is adorable, and then we have
Oh my God.
Mark, who's
It
just
was the
third
entire
wheeling.
episode. He's like,
Entire episode, he's third wheeling inside
yes.
inside poor Steven's head, and he's like, "Don't you dare kiss her!" And then
Okay.
Steven kisses her, and then Mark punches him in the face.
He's just like, oh.
That
Best
was
moment
that was
ever.
great.
I love it.
And then
Um,
Layla's like setting like cute little Steven up with like all the gear he needs to get inside the tomb. And then Steven's like, "This is the best day of my life. This is everything I wanted." Poor guy. He just wants an adventure.
he does. And like his genuine excitement when he's in the tomb,
Oh my
right?
God, I love that. That would be me if I was in an Egyptian tomb, because
He
like
literally was just
so
so
amazing.
genuinely excited and like it felt so sincere and so sweet. Like, oh my God, like he literally like we knew from the very beginning of the show that like he geeks out on Egypt and what's it called? Egyptology?
Yes.
Oh,
Egyptology is the study of Egypt, yes.
yes, okay, that's what yes. Anyways, but that like that whole thing he like geeks out on, and it's like nice to see him like even when he was like doing the map with the stars in the last episode, like he knew what to do.
Yeah.
Right, and he was geeking out about that, and then he like you really saw it in this episode,
Well,
like oh my God.
in my opinion,
Yeah,
all of the ancient histories is some of the most interesting histories. It doesn't matter where you go in the world.
I have to
Anything
agree.
that has like ancient history is so interesting. Like I haven't done a full course on ancient Egypt, but I did an ancient Mediterranean course from my schooling that
Mhm.
2 weeks covered ancient Egypt. We covered so much in those 2 weeks that I don't remember
So it
very
was
much
like
of it.
Mediterranean area.
Yeah, so we did Rome, we did Greece, we did Mesopotamia, like Uruk, we did Egypt, we did like a whole like pretty much
Mhm.
everything that's in that area. We went up to Turkey, talked about ancient Turkey and like that whole area, and it was a lot. In 2 weeks she squeezed the entirety of the ancient Egyptian history. which was
That's
so much
impressive, but
information.
you
My
probably
brain,
didn't even like scratch the surface.
yeah, my brain imploded learning that. It was so amazing. Like
I
it
really
was
do
so
love.
interesting.
So when I was younger, I was fascinated by Egypt and mummies and all that stuff. And I like, when you're a little kid and they ask you what you want to be, I said I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Here's the thing that I've learned because I was like, "Ooh, I kind of want to be in archaeology," and I was thinking on doing that with my history degree.
Hmm.
It's very difficult to do, especially because you have to go through
Can I
anthropology.
can I just I have a phone call from my appointment. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry.
What the actual heck? Who answers the phone in the middle of recording an episode? Sorry, Chantal.
I could have slept it in.
She thought that someone called me and let me know, and I'm like, I just got it. Like, they text you to confirm your appointment,
hmm
and that's all that I got. And she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
So they're like out of nail extensions.
No, the technician called in sick.
Oh, but I guess it's better for her to call in sick than for her to give you like
That is true, because I
COVID or
don't.
something.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, it's fine. It's
I
fine.
mean, hey, like to be fair, you'll be getting it next week, and that's typically like mid-exam time, so you'll be relaxed. You'll be able to like,
The week later.
yeah.
Anyways, it's fine. I told her I really just wanted to get my nails in because I wanted to feel pampered because I've been so stressed, but I'm fine.
No, exactly. Like
I totally understand.
if you
Yeah.
have it next week, all your assignments will be done. It'll be
I'll
right
be
before
stress
exams.
free. And I can decorate them to be Christmassy themed.
Exactly.
Okay,
Okay.
fine.
Um, Egyptology is
Yes.
so interesting, and we'll actually come back to this a little bit later in the episode.
Yes.
But it's like there's so much of it. There's so much history.
It's
It's
fascinating.
so old and it's so interesting and like even the what's it called? Sorry. The my brain's not working, forgive me. The ancient Egyptian religion,
Yes.
it has a name, but I forget the name. It is so interesting. Like learning
It's
even just I learned just like a little smidgen, like we barely scratched the surface.
yeah.
It is so interesting. Like
Like you mean like Egypt mythology?
yeah.
Is that what would be called?
That's not the name of the religion. It has a specific name.
Yeah.
But I just can't remember it.
But like that whole like the Egypt mythology, Greek mythology, Roman mythology, like they're so even like Norse mythology and Celtic, it's so
hmm
fascinating. I'm like, why aren't
Any
ours so
any
cool?
any type of ancient religion or like ancient culture is super interesting. Like in oh, where was it? I think it was in Mesopotamia. They had these, sorry, side rant. There was this city
Hmm.
um that had like these statues, and we called them goddess statues because we don't really know what they were used for,
Hmm.
but they're like these statues and there's just statues of women and the entire site is like littered with them, and they're not sure if they were like just something that people did for fun or if they had some sort of like ritualistic religious aspect. So even just like
Oh my God, I just came
there's
up with
so
a
much
glorious idea for a story.
but there's so much stuff like that that we don't even know yet, and it's like it's so interesting to like learn, and just the mystery of it is
Oh my
interesting.
God. Here's what like I think they are. I think when people die, specifically women, when women die, they did like this ritual thing to put their souls in those statues, and that's where they are.
I don't think so, but
But that would be
that
awesome.
would be awesome. But also because this recently came up in one of my lectures because I'm doing an anthropology course this year.
Yes.
So to preface this, the ancient Mediterranean world course I did was like 2 years ago, I want to say. I'm doing an anthropology course this year, and my professor actually mentioned these statues, and I was like, oh my God, it's the
I know
little
them.
statues. I know those. And my professor was saying that they think one possibility for these statues is that the women, because they're really weirdly proportioned, right? Like the feet come to a point, the arms come to a point. They're not defined features, right?
Mhm.
So what my professor was saying was, what she thinks these are is women looking down at themselves and carving these statues of themselves, which is why we get weirdly proportioned statues, is because they're looking down
Yeah,
and they
that
can't
makes
see their feet,
sense.
so they come to a point. It's just interesting stuff like that. Like
That
I
makes
love,
sense.
right? But I love hearing like, well, we don't know what it is, but this is what we think this is for this reason, for that reason, And I know that's like, I know Mesopotamia is not Egypt, but coming back to Egypt, it's just it's so interesting.
I mean,
Did you know
we
that?
get to
No, we don't. We don't get to Mesopotamia in
No,
this
wait.
episode. Macedonia.
Oh yeah, never mind.
But like, it's just Egypt is so interesting because it used to be um, two different states, right? It used to be Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt.
Yeah.
And to make things so much more interesting, they did Upper and Lower Egypt based on the way that the Nile
Mhm.
flows, because it goes north to south. No, south to north. No, no, north to south. It goes north to south. And
Okay.
and as far as I know, a lot of other, like pretty much every other river in the world goes south to north. Now I'm doubting
Okay.
myself because my
I
brain's not
don't
working.
know.
Um,
I'm not. She's looking it up.
well, yeah, because it's going to bother me because I
Yeah.
can't remember. No,
But
it's
like
south
the
to north.
whole
I was right. It's south to
Okay,
north.
south to north.
So like Upper Egypt is below Lower Egypt
Yes.
because they thought, because the Nile River flew south to north, that south was higher than north.
Mhm. Can I just say, before we time out, the what was I gonna say? Oh, yes, okay. On top of like all of the incredible history and all that, I think the Egyptians were probably one of the smartest civilizations ever.
Well, okay. I agree with that, but I agree that there's so many really, really smart civilizations as well. Like
I
the
do.
Mayans, the
Yes.
Mayans were freaking geniuses. And I feel like it's just it the level of intelligence is based on where they are in the world.
Yeah, I
Because
agree with
some
that.
people some people were fortunate and were in an area that were very easy landscape wise. Other people had more
Excuse
difficult
me.
terrain. Like Egypt had to deal with the Nile and the flooding and the droughts and the desert. Greek had to deal with the mountains and the volcanoes. Same thing with the I mean, not as much the Romans, but mostly the Greeks had to deal with the
Volcanoes are
mountains.
mostly in Sicily.
Yeah, but that was
Mount
Greek.
Etna. Oh yeah, at the time.
It was Greek before it was Roman. It doesn't become Roman until quite a bit later
I know.
on.
Listen, I could
So it's
have
like,
Greek like bloodstream down my
and
line.
so like it's very much based on where you are on the road, because that's why
Mhm.
so much Egyptian artifacts are preserved, especially like clay tablets, pottery, and that type of stuff,
They knew
because
how
the
to do
sun,
that.
well, also because the sun is so hot
Yeah.
that it actually preserved the clay, because the clay would be fired clay,
Mhm.
right? Because normally they would just wipe the clay clean to like rewrite something, anything like that, but
Yeah.
because of the heat, it actually like set it and
Mhm.
helped preserve it.
We can
Anyways,
also thank the Egyptians for the Pythagorean theorem that we learned in school. So
that's my little history rant because I
a little
love it so
history
much.
rant.
I love it so
Thank
much.
you, Professor Chantal.
We've
This has
spent
been
like
another episode of Learning with Chantal. Stay tuned to our next
we
series that we do.
We spent
Coming
5 minutes
soon.
on Moon Knight and we're like half an hour in. You can cut that back. But yeah,
No,
like
I'm
that.
gonna leave it all in. It's interesting. I
But
love it.
that's like a lot of the stuff that I learned that I remember, that at least I remember because,
It's
it was a
honestly
while
just
ago.
so much. But honestly, like the whole the ancient history as a whole, there's like a bunch of free documentaries on YouTube that you can watch that are absolutely
Mhm.
fascinating. Like there's a whole series on like just on Egypt. And they talk about that's the other thing. I don't know any I could be wrong and you can correct me, but I don't know any other um civilization that had women rulers. I mean, there must have been, but like
There
for them,
were, but not to the extent that Egypt had them, because we
yeah.
actually just, because I mean, in the same class that we talked about those Mesopotamian statues, we actually talked about, oh God, I'm gonna butcher her name and I feel so bad. Hatshepsut.
Oh,
I know.
yes, Hapshut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I have really bad pronunciation for every name I ever come across. But yeah, she was a woman king. She was a pharaoh of ancient
Yeah.
Egypt.
So was
And
like Nefertiti,
but
Cleopatra,
to be fair, Nefertiti wasn't a pharaoh in her own right. She was married to one.
but she's very well known.
She's very well known because she's King Tut's
Mother.
mother,
Yeah.
which is a whole other rant I have. Um, well, it's about
Was
King
he
Tut. It's not
murdered
about,
or was he
well,
just sick?
okay, not even that. The only reason why he's famous is because of his tomb.
They
He
found
really
it intact.
he really didn't do much in the way of
He probably, yeah, like he didn't.
Egypt. Like he was a young king. He was a child when he came into power. He was a teenager when he died. It's all tragic. He was very inbred, um, which caused him to have
A lot of
a
health
lot of
issues.
genetic issues.
Yeah.
But he also didn't really do anything
Compared to other, yeah.
compared to other pharaohs. Like,
Hmm.
we don't have very much documentation about him doing very much for Egypt. The only reason why he's famous is because his tomb was found fully intact.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's an incredible discovery because they probably learned
It
so
is.
much about that time period,
Yeah, they like
right?
it has so many artifacts in it, and there's actually a really interesting documentary. I think it's on Disney Plus. I think it's on Disney Plus about
Oh, I think
um
so, about his,
Tutankhamun and
yeah.
the things found in his tomb. And it's actually really interesting because they discuss this one sword and why it was so special to him and why he had it buried with him. And it turns out, according to this documentary, that that sword was actually like a meteorite that had fallen in the desert, and they thought it was the gods giving them the metal because it had metal in it that was not found in Egypt for another like couple hundred years. So they
Hmm.
were like, how did they get this metal and make
Wow.
this sword? But they think it's a meteor that fell in the desert.
See, like that alone is incredible.
Sorry,
Anyways,
side rant.
that was a whole side rant, like 30 minutes worth of a history lesson right there for you guys. Um, let's
Okay.
get back to our regularly scheduled Moon Knight talk.
We Okay, so before we move on, I found the name of the documentary about King Tut, and
Oh, okay.
it's called Tut's Treasures, Hidden Secrets, and it's all about
Yes.
it's a good documentary. It talks about like a bunch of the stuff that they
It's on
found.
Disney Plus, right?
It's on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if anyone's interested in learning more.
It's actually pretty interesting despite um him not have done much, but he did, because his tomb was preserved
It
so
contributed a
wonderfully.
lot to
It
what we know
contributed a
today.
lot to the like, yeah. All right.
Okay, let's
Back
actually
to
talk about Moon Knight now.
we'll circle back later.
Yeah, so we were talking about how they were going into the tomb and then we got
Steven
into
was
a whole
super,
tangent.
yeah, because Steven is super excited about everything, and I would have been
Yes.
right there with him.
Before that was when he kissed Layla and then Mark punched him.
Punched him.
Basically punched himself in the face. That was hilarious. I love that.
So this this show kind of turned into a bit of a like thriller slash horror real
Oh my
quick
God.
with those
Ah,
with
the,
those
the,
yeah.
ah,
Yeah, I did not like the clicking. I thought that was
that
very
was disgusting.
yeah. I can't believe. Okay, so Layla's like, "Oh, I wonder who they were firing at." And this wasn't the first like red flag in their mind that something was not right.
Mm-hmm.
Like she finds a whole trail of bullets and she's like, "Oh, I wonder what they're firing at. I'm sure it's fine. Let's go deeper."
Well, remember when like they were in that area where they with the where the guy like mummified people, right?
Yeah.
I forget what they were called, but it was like the people in the tomb that
We're guarding the tomb. Yeah. They were
yeah,
like the bodyguards,
right?
yeah.
So they were in that area and there was the pathway to go, but there was blood and then Steve's like, I feel like we should look for another way. Like,
Yeah, he's like,
would it be smart to follow the trail of blood, or should we
yeah,
just find something else like up there?
that would literally be me.
I was like, that's probably the most accurate thing anyone's probably done in a
But then that
show.
whole scene like got even worse because like okay,
It did.
she sent Mark up or Steven up
Yeah.
first, right? So she's like, "Oh, you go up." And he's standing up there and he's like there's
That
nothing bad
hand with
happening
the
to him.
skin. Oh, I hate
I mean,
snakes.
okay, that's
Anyways, sorry.
yeah, you hate
I
snakes, so
had to
fair.
mention
So
that, yeah.
fair. But why didn't she go up once he was like, "Okay, it's safe up here." She stayed down there for so long.
She did.
She had so much time to go up, okay? And then they hear the clicking, and Mark's like, oh, hide. She had time to climb up. I'm sorry, she had time. She is a fit young woman who does this, okay? She climbs, she rappels, she does parkour. She could easily get up there quickly, and they could run through the door and be safe.
This whole
But
conversation's making me all itchy because of that whole scene. Anyways, yeah, continue.
okay, to be fair, then we wouldn't have like a lot that happens after.
Yeah.
So then they both get discovered and the creature is like fighting like it's like coming after them and Mark squishes or Steven squishes him.
He does, yeah. It's
Steven
like,
squishes him and then she runs in the direction of the blood. So I'm like, no, Layla.
and we all know how that turned out. So,
Okay, I actually had lots of thoughts about this. I wrote like a whole paragraph down about this. So,
okay.
she's crossing the ledge, right?
Yeah.
The ledge gives way. Okay. So let's hypothetically say it's a good thing Steven didn't go with her because if
Yeah.
he had gone with her, he would have either been in front of her or behind her. So if he was in front of her, I'm assuming it's the weight and the age that caused the ledge to crumble. If he went first, the second he stepped off, it would have crumbled and she would have fallen.
Yeah.
If she went first and he was behind her, the second she stepped off, it would have crumbled and he would have fallen.
So either way, it was a
So-
good thing she just went alone.
Exactly. I like literally wrote that down and I'm like, okay, I know movie wise, theoretically, they wouldn't have made a main character fall. They would have done one of those things where like it just falls just as he's like stepping off and he's like, oh, like, that was
Woo.
spooky. But still,
Woo.
if you think about it, if he had gone with her
Yeah.
at that point in time, someone would have fallen. And I thought about that for like a whole hour.
That is so funny. Of course, you think of like little things. So episode 4 of the podcast, you asked me such a deep question that it broke me. And
I don't even
I'm
know
just
what the
standing
question. What
there.
was the
I'm like
question?
editing, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this. Like it literally broke me.
I
I'm just
don't
staring at the
remember
camera, like I forget what you asked me, but I'm like for like 2 minutes. So of course you think of things like this, where you're like, well, if
sounds like me,
the
but
ledge broke, then
no,
someone would have died.
I literally sat there and I was like, oh my god, if like Steven had gone with her, he would be dead or she would be dead because he's taller than her and he's
Yeah.
a little bit more muscular than her, so he's got more weight, so he would have been heavier, so then the ledge would have probably given out quicker and sooner,
Yeah.
and then one of them would die. And then moving on, I had a whole thought like
And then
behind
like
that.
right after that, the thing like grabs her
But
and pulls
not
her
even
and
that.
huh?
Like even before that, you see it running behind, like through
It
the
like
cracks.
curls his hand like into
Yeah,
the thing
and
and
you see it running. You see the creature, whatever it's called, running behind the stone between the cracks, and then you see the hand reach out, and then it grabs her from behind, and that like, oh my god, Layla was like a total badass during that
yeah.
scene,
That
but it
whole
was
scene,
very
that's why it like
spooky.
I mean the whole episode reminded me of that mummy, but that specifically reminded me so much of the mummy.
It did like, oh my god, it
Yeah.
was so creepy.
That and when Stephen, which is what we're going to talk about next, when Stephen goes into the tomb, the actual
The
tomb.
tomb, yeah, and like I have a lot of feelings about that,
Okay.
and we'll talk about it, but yeah,
Oh, but before that, that's when Harlow comes in and talks to
well
Layla.
he actually comes in after Stephen discovers the tomb, but it is in
It
that
kind of happens
area,
like hand in hand,
like
yeah.
it is in that area that Harlow talks to Layla and is I hate I hate Harlow so much as a character. Like nothing against the actor because he's done a pretty good job so far.
Yeah.
Actually a really good job so far. Just I
He's
hate
done his job to make sure that we hate this character.
well also like I hate characters where they're like nice but you can tell that they're like it feels fake.
Yeah.
Like I hate characters where they're
We've
nice but it feels
yeah,
so fake and I
we've
hate that it
definitely talked
felt
about that in
so
later
fake and like
earlier episodes.
he talks to Layla about her father, which is really, really sad because Mark was part of the team that caused her
First
father's
of
death.
all, how does he know that?
Well, because when he read Stephen's scales, he saw
Oh,
everything.
he saw it. Okay.
He saw it.
That part was just a little unclear.
Oh, they said it like twice. But
Did they?
yeah.
I probably just wasn't paying attention enough then.
But yeah, so he says like, when I read his scales, I saw what happened.
hmm
And he tells Layla like, Mark was part of the team who killed your father. Well, he more implies that Mark himself killed her father, but he
Which
didn't.
is like
It's
that's
bad
Harlow's
enough, but
way of making her go on his side and like
but
or
it's
like
it's it's not even that. It's like I hate when it's such a clear manipulation.
hmm
Like I much prefer when the like villain subtly manipulates the like hero. I hate
yeah.
when it's a very clear manipulation, and I'm like, yeah, he's manipulating.
He's definitely manipulating her and like trying to get her to be upset at him, at Mark,
Hmm.
and that's ultimately what will separate them.
And I
Because I
hate
think Harlow definitely knows they're stronger together.
I hate that, and I hate when like yeah, so I hate that. Well, we'll talk a little bit later about more stuff that I hate, but that being said, this is my favorite episode. So I have a lot of stuff I
Yeah.
hate in my favorite
It
episode, but a
really
lot of stuff
is
I liked.
like the
But
one episode that I think we were all kind of waiting for. Again, we're going to get into this whole thing. I still am confused about Harlow's motivations, but um the execution of the episode, the action in this episode, the acting in this episode, it was so
yeah,
good and I
it
love
was
it. It's
amazing.
honestly one of my favorite episodes so far. I'll say so far only because we still have 2 episodes to go.
I think
Which concerns me because we still have 2 episodes to go and we still haven't seen like the big thing. The big
yeah,
like you know what I mean?
yeah, we
Like
haven't seen the overall big picture quite yet.
there's 2 episodes left.
And there's so much
How
like
there's still so much to do or to
mhm,
like story-wise to get through in order to get to the end. Especially like I mean, we've obviously seen the show before and we know how it ends. And we're definitely going to talk about this next episode about Moon
mhm.
Knight. Not in 2 weeks. We'll talk about Moon Knight episode 5. But you know the episode I'm talking about, right?
I
You're
do.
like after that episode, you're like, how are they going to wrap this up?
Yeah,
There's
no,
one
no,
episode
like,
left.
yeah, like it was, they're
I
very
think
good. They're very
overall,
good at that.
yeah,
They're very
they
good at
are,
that.
but I think that's like the one issue that I have with the show so far is like I still don't understand what Harlow's motive is, and I think it's a bit, especially at the end, it's a bit rushed. But we'll get to it when we talk about the last episode.
Yeah, like I don't understand. Yeah, I don't get his motivations. I don't I know that he has a kind of grudge against Khonshu,
But it's still
but
unclear, like
but
why.
it's like, yeah, exactly. Like we still don't know really why, other than like a brief mention, oh, you left my body broken. Like that was the only mention we got last episode, right? So
Yeah.
I wish they would go a little bit more in depth
Like
into
I
that.
said before, I think we would have really benefited if we had like some kind of flashback scene where Harlow was his avatar and maybe see the fallout.
No, I 100% agree. Okay.
So,
Let's
Steven's in the
move on.
tomb.
So Stephen's in the tomb.
Yes.
He is freaking out. Like obviously he's like, oh my God, it's a
It's
pharaoh of
amazing.
Egypt.
He
We
even
don't
says
know
like, "Oh
who
my
it
God, we're
is."
the first ones here."
He's like, yeah, he's like, this is a great discovery. And he's like, oh, like Macedonian. He was so confused. He was like, Macedonian, that's not right. And when I remember when I first watched this, like even I watched it with my parents the first time, and I
I'm
think I
pretty sure you
texted you.
texted me.
I
Yeah.
did text you. I was like, Macedonian, Alexander the Great. And then like 2 seconds later, um, Stephen is like, there's only one like Egyptian pharaoh who, well, Macedonian king who insisted on calling himself
A
Egyptian,
pharaoh. Yeah.
and that was Alexander the Great.
Alexander the
And I
Great.
was like, Alexander the Great. I mean, he Alexander the Great did some pretty terrible things, but in the ancient history world, I think he's one of the more fascinating
I think what's also so
people.
fascinating is like
And
we still haven't found his tomb.
we still haven't found his tomb, and I actually mentioned that in my notes. I'm like it's very cool that they chose Alexander the Great as Amit's like voice, I think is what they call him, like the
Yeah.
avatar of Amit. And it's very interesting because Alexander the Great is like an incredible historical figure because he did a lot of like, I mean, as all history people, a
They're
lot of
not
people do a lot of
the
bad things,
greatest.
but
Yeah.
they also do really, like, I don't want to say good things, but great things as well. Like this dude was really young when he went on his whole quest to conquer
Hmm. Yeah.
pretty much everything.
I think just like the
But
amazing part is that he was so young and was able to conquer so much in so
and
little time.
the way he did it, because yes, he did conquer, he used warfare, but he also integrated the culture of the places that he conquered in with the Greek culture, and the Greek culture in with their culture. Like
Hmm.
he didn't force them to take the Macedonian Greek culture,
Yeah.
basically. So, anyways, it's really interesting. There is a documentary about Alexander's Lost Tomb on Disney Plus, and
I watched that one, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's called Alexander's Lost Tomb. Yeah, The Lost
I
Tomb
think,
of Alexander the Great. It's on
yeah.
Disney Plus. It's really, really good because they talk about how I think at the end of the documentary, go watch it. It's an amazing documentary, but they talk about how they think that his tomb might actually be underneath modern buildings, and they can't
Which, like, you
dig
can't
underneath
get
the
to that.
modern buildings because they're really tall, like apartment buildings, basically.
You can't get to that, which it's
And it's just
at the same time, like, as great as like like we build these modern day structures, it's a shame that we can't get to those types of tombs because
but
to like
it's
to discover that, like just
but
how
it's
like
like,
how
and it's
amazing do you
not,
think that's
and
going to
it's just
be,
it's
right?
really cool to think about because it's not just Egypt that has this kind of issue. Because I mean, obviously, as big cities are built upon, older parts of the city are pushed down,
It's all
and
layered.
it's layered, and you can kind of, I mean, when you're studying history, you can kind of see that, especially with like
Hmm.
older cities. But Rome's a great example. Every time they dig to build a subway, they
Something's
find
there
they find more artifacts, and then they can't dig any further because they
of
have
the
to
artifacts.
protect the artifacts. So they
Yeah.
just decided to
I
give up
really
on the
want to go to
submarine.
Rome.
We'll go to Rome. I'll tell you what, we'll plan a trip and we'll go.
I really, really want to
Because
go.
I really want to go. I went once, as you know, with that school trip. I was very fortunate.
But you were only there because you did the whole like Europe trip, right? So you were
Yeah,
only there
we
for
did.
maybe a day, right?
We were there for a day. Because like we went to Paris and then we went to the French Riviera and then we like drove through like Pisa. We were there for like a couple hours, like maybe 2 hours max, and then we went to Florence. Was at Florence for a couple days, and then we ended up in Rome for like a day. Like
Yeah, see, I
got to
would.
Rome in the evening, stayed overnight in Rome, and then was like spent the day in Rome. But the reason
Yeah.
why I want to go back is because the Colosseum at the time was getting cleaned when I was there. So there
You
was
never got to
scaffold.
go in?
Oh no, we got to go in, just there was scaffolding along the outside.
Ah,
So we didn't really get to see it. Like we saw
mhm.
it just from the
You didn't get
inside.
to see it in its glory.
Yeah, and I would like to plan a time to go when they're not cleaning it because they do it quite
I
often to
would.
protect
I
it.
mean, it is an old building, and to maintain it
They
is
yeah,
you have to try. Like, especially
especially because
a
it's missing all its marble. Like if it had
yeah.
its marble, it probably would be more protected. But because they took the marble out to use in other buildings, yeah, and that was done in ancient times too. Like
Yeah. Um. Anyway, so going back
anyway,
to the
sorry, back to Moon Knight. Sorry, we keep
we
going on
keep
these little
doing this
tangents.
episode. We're just so fascinated with history. Um, I'm leaving it all in, by the way. I don't care.
So yeah, you can go. Um, so if you want to know more about Alexander the Great's lost tomb, you can
Yeah.
go watch that documentary on Disney Plus. It is very interesting, but that's like one of the first things I thought of when Stephen was talking about Alexander the Great. I was like, I have mixed feelings about this because it's really cool that they're using this historical figure and it makes sense for him to be Amit's avatar.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I'm like, it bothers me because I'm like, we don't know for sure that that's where his tomb is.
But it's always nice to like
But
imagine that's where it
it
is.
is,
You know
it
what I
is,
mean?
it
That's what
is
movie
nice,
is.
but
It's an escape from reality.
it is, and I always say that because I sometimes I struggle with this because I'm always like, yeah, like I don't care, but then like I get inside my
You
head and I'm
do.
like, and then I think about it
You
and I'm
do
like,
care.
actually I care, and then I'm like, wait, no, I don't, and then I'm like, yeah, I kind of do, and then I'm like, no, I don't. It depends on the movie, it depends on the show, and it depends on how they do it.
Yeah.
Just I don't know why this one bothered me a little, where they were like, it's Alexander the Great's tomb because it makes sense and it
I
works for
think it's
the
because you
show.
love Alexander the Great so much.
Yeah, and
Don't
I'm
say
like,
you don't, because every time you
uh-huh.
talk about a historical figure, it's always Alexander the Great is the greatest. Can I also say the fact that he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Great."
Yeah, I actually wrote that in my notes. But yeah, so like it kind of bothered me that they were like, this is Alexander the Great's lost tomb because yeah, reasons. But anyways, yeah, I found it funny when poor Stephen opens Alexander the Great's tomb, has to stick his arm
So
down his
sorry.
throat, and the entire time he's like, sorry, Mr. Great, and sorry, Mr. Great. Like,
I love that.
oh,
I love Steven.
Stephen's so cute. I love him. I'm like, I would not stick my arm down the throat. I would not do that. I'm sorry, Stephen, but I do not have that bravery,
But
that
here's
courage.
here's also like the thing that I'm curious about. And I really hope if they do a season 2, because remember at the beginning of the episode, right? Very, very beginning before Layla's like badass moment. The avatar, I forget which avatar he is, but he took Khonshu's statue and put it in that like case
Oh, and
thingy.
there's all the other gods
There's
there.
so many gods there. I want to see a show where we explore those more.
Especially
Also,
especially later on, we'll see. I don't it's the not next episode, it's the last episode, I think. We see something that happens that may make that possible.
right? So, and that this is my other question. I also want to see the show where it's Alexander the Great, right? And like,
I want to see that so
right?
bad.
But I want to see, what did Amit do for her to get trapped in the statue and then for them to hide it in Alexander the Great?
right? I want to
She must
know,
have had to do
and I
something
know,
so bad
that
for
they.
that to happen, because otherwise she would have just been like another statue among the other
Mhm.
gods, right?
And it's difficult to do that because it's hard to keep historical figures in character. Just because they're historical figures, they
You
lived
obviously don't know.
hundreds of thousands of years ago, a lot of them. I mean, thousands of years
But
ago.
like,
But
again,
still, like,
here's the
it's
thing,
difficult. It's
Chantal.
difficult to keep them. So it's like when people are like, "Oh, I wonder what Alexander the Great would have done. Like, would he have agreed with Amit? Would he have not?" It's hard to say because we can't go and ask him because
Okay,
he's
but
a real
here's the
person.
thing, Chantal. Here's the thing. This is a fictional Marvel
No, I
show.
know,
You know?
but that's no, but that's what I mean. Like, I want to know, I want to know about Alexander the Great and what he would have done, but also like you have to take these things with a grain of salt. You can't like cite them
Yeah,
as
like
historically accurate, is
they're
what I
real.
mean.
They were real people,
People,
and
but
you
that's
obviously want to respect that.
no,
But
but
at the
that's
same time, this is a Marvel fictional show.
exactly. But that's just what I mean. Like you have to
So
take it
I
as a grain
think
of salt. You
yeah,
can't
in
use it
that you
as
can
historical
take,
fact.
yeah, in that you can take more liberties with the story and like the types of characters. But at the same time, you obviously have to respect the fact that like these were real people. This person obviously, like, again, as you said before, he wasn't the greatest person, but what he was able to do history wise was amazing. Um
Yeah, and
Obviously not, we're not condoning the fact that you
it's
should go and conquer the entire world just like some countries are right now. But, you know,
it's just I always find it a fine line when you're putting real people like that into fiction because you
mhm,
don't want to make them seem like they're without fault and you
yeah.
don't want to make them seem like the actions that they did were good when they might
Mhm.
not have been because I found a lot of fiction will excuse um, real historical figures within the story of fiction in order to further the story itself.
Yeah.
And I find that a little bit problematic because it takes away from the
What actually
truth and what
happened. Yeah.
actually happened and like the pain of what happened and stuff like that. So that's why I'm just like it's a fine line. You got to take it with a grain of salt. You
Yeah,
can't like
but I still want to see that
yeah.
show.
I
Even if
still
it's
want
a
to see it.
movie, I don't care. Even if it's like one episode, I still want to see it.
I still want to see it. I still think it would be interesting.
Yeah.
But I'd be a little concerned that they make him too good, if that makes sense. Because a lot of shows will do that with historical characters. Well, they'll make them
Hmm.
too good. Although to be fair, Marvel is pretty good at at drawing the line between good and evil. Like Loki is a really good character who is supposed to be evil, but we see a good side to him, but we understand that he's not necessarily 100% the good guy.
Yeah.
Like I
But
yeah.
that and but that's like a well-developed character.
Yeah, and
You know
that's
what
what
I
I'm
mean?
yeah. Exactly. Okay,
So
anyway,
yeah,
back to the movie.
sorry.
Sorry,
Back to,
sorry, that was my
we
fault. I
keep
have
going on a tangent
sorry, that was my
today.
fault. I really like Alexander the Great, so I'm just
Yeah.
like I don't want to like excuse
So
some of the things he's
so
done.
they're in the tomb.
Um,
He
they're in
finds
the
the
tomb. He
statue
finds the
of Amit.
statue.
Layla comes in
Okay,
and
can we talk
she's
about this for a sec? I have another rant.
furious.
Sorry, another
Okay,
rant about this,
go
right?
ahead.
So Mark takes over because Steven's like, fuck this shit, I'm out the second
Like,
Layla's like,
listen, this is your marital problems. I'm not involved in
yeah.
this.
So Mark's like, okay, we gotta go. And Leia's like, no, tell me the truth. I hate when characters do this. It's honestly one of the things that brought the episode down for me when they're in imminent danger. Like they need to leave. They can hear Haro coming. They're in imminent danger. Layla's like, no, tell me the truth. Mark's like, no, we have to
We
leave.
have to
We
go.
have to go.
Yeah.
And Layla's like, no, let's talk about this first. Like, I get it. She's pissed off. I understand. But you can't talk about that outside the tomb. Like, go
Yeah.
outside, go to where it's safe, and then, like, get pissed off at Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, but it really bothers me when characters do this because it's not just this show that does it. Like, it happens in a lot of movies and a lot of shows where the one person's like, we have to leave and we have to leave now. And then someone's like, no, you have to tell me the truth now. And then they get caught or they get injured or as we
Mm-hmm.
see with Steven and Mark, they get shot and then they die. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, it
That
really pisses me off when
mhm.
characters do that, when they're in clear danger and then they're like, no, tell me the truth now. No, go to safety first.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Like, I get I get you're pissed off. I get you want to know about your dad. I understand that you now know that Mark had something to do with your father's death, whether he directly killed your father or helped your father die.
Yeah.
Like, don't do that right there in the middle of the tomb
There
where
are
you know
other more
Harrow is
pressing
coming for.
matters at the moment.
Exactly. Like, leave and then get mad at Mark. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, and I get it, it's emotion. Like, you can't really control that. And I feel bad for Layla because of it. And I
Well,
understand,
here's
but
the thing.
it always
I
bothers
think
me.
Harlow was really hoping that this would happen.
Yeah,
And
and
that's why he said that to Layla at that moment.
it just no, but it bothers me when characters do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, like, you can hear the gunshots.
Yeah.
Like,
Anyway, so he gets
that's where I'm
shot.
at.
Mark and
Yeah.
Steven get shot. And then we're taken to I remember the first time I watched this, I was like,
Okay,
what is going
so
on?
Mark, I
Was
just
this
have to
whole
mention,
thing a dream? That's
I
what
just
I
have
thought initially.
I didn't think that initially,
Okay,
honestly.
go
I
ahead.
thought he was in purgatory, like some sort of purgatory type
Mm-hmm.
thing. But when he gets shot, when he falls backwards, you know, when they do like the zoom in of his face and he's falling backwards into the water, I felt like that was so fake, just the way he fell, because he was very stiff. Like, I'm sorry, it bothered me because it looked a little bit fake.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he should be a little bit wobbly, in my opinion. He shouldn't be like and then falling back like this. Like, he was very stiff falling back. But I mean, I get it. It's hard. It's
It's
hard to
hard
do
to
that.
do a death scene when
Hard
you're
to
not
do that.
actually dying.
I know it's hard to do that shot. It's hard for the actors to act in that shot, especially
Yeah.
with like practical effects and everything. I get it. It just when I first saw it, I was like,
What?
my door moved.
Okay, Chantal, before we started recording, told me about the nightmare that she had, and that's why she's not recording in the closet. And now she's freaking out because her door moved.
Yeah, and there's a child outside my door talking. I'm in a condo, by the way, guys, so I can hear things outside in the hallway.
I don't hear anything for the record.
Okay. Well, I hear a child laughing, so okay.
Um,
I think
okay,
we're done.
so
I think the child pushed the door because I could hear them laughing.
oh,
It freaked me out.
anyways,
Um.
so he's
So,
in
anyways,
he's in
my
purgatory.
nitpicking. Ignore my nitpicking. I'm very
Yeah.
nitpicky. But he like the first time I watched this, I thought he was in some sort of like Egyptian purgatory, because like there is the whole myth where you're standing in line waiting for your scales to be read, and like um you have to measure your heart. I think it's your heart against a feather, and if your heart is like lighter than the feather, or if it's balanced, then you get to move on. If it's heavier, then you don't, type of thing. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought that that's what that was that eventually he would. I mean, we kind of see that a little bit,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about that
And
later. But
I think too what's interesting about the oh no. We'll be really quick, really quick. I think what's so interesting about it is the fact that it is like a psychiatric hospital because you see like little hints of the mental illness from the
hmm
very beginning of the show. And I also think depending on who's in there, it's gonna look different.
and it was very interesting the way that they did the personalities, Mark's like personalities in the coffins, because we see Stephen in the sarcophagus and
Yeah.
Mark lets him out, and then they both see another sarcophagus and they don't open it. And as we know, we've been kind of seeing little bits and pieces of this third personality starting to come through,
Mm-hmm.
especially in the last episode. So we're seeing more of a third personality. So I feel like this is just confirmation that there is more personalities within Mark that he doesn't know about.
Yeah.
So that too is interesting. And then they get to the end and they see, oh man, I always butcher this
I'm
name. I'm
not
so
even gonna
sorry.
try the
Ta
hippo
ta
goddess.
what is her name? Tourette, I think
I
is how
think
you pronounce
so.
it. But they both scream at the same
It was
time, and it
so
is so
funny.
funny. I laughed.
Can I also
I
say, like, the
laughed.
moment where they meet each other there, that
That was so
hug
sweet.
and that embrace,
Oh, that was
you're
so
like,
sweet. And it
oh
was
my
like they were
God, like, this is
brothers.
the relationship that we need. This
And
is
it
the
was like
relationship that
it was
we've been waiting for.
exactly. It was literally like they were brothers, and it was so
Because
sweet. Oh,
at this point, they know they need each other's help.
yeah.
There's no backing down. After this whole episode, they now realize, like Mark realizes, okay, I actually need Steven and Steven needs Mark. There's
Yeah.
no like arguing about who's going to take over the body after this.
Yeah, exactly. And it's amazing. And like just I just found it so funny when they scream. They're running down the hallway and they both scream.
They both scream.
Oh,
So,
I love that
and
part.
she just goes, "Hi."
Yeah, she's just like, "Hi."
Oh my, I love her so much, and I really hope if they do more with, I mean, they're obviously going to do more with Moonlight because it, you know,
I
but
don't know if they're gonna do another show, but they did say that we're gonna see him more in the
I
movies.
really hope so, and I
So I'm
really want to
excited.
see more of her, and I really want to see more of Layla. You know specifically like how I want to see Layla.
Me
We'll
too.
talk about that
Me
later.
too. We'll talk
But
about that next episode.
yeah, like I'm very like
I'm
honestly,
excited.
this episode was
Okay.
like the one that I loved the most.
So ratings. I'm gonna actually, despite my little nitpickings, I'm gonna rate this one 10 out of 10.
Really, I wasn't gonna go that high.
I
I was
okay.
gonna say an 8.
I would say 9.5 to 10 out of 10. Like 9.5 to
Okay.
10 cuz like I loved this episode.
Also,
Despite my
that
nitpicking, it
whole
was amazing.
the video, sorry, before we go, the VHS tape
Oh
of
yes, that
The
was
Adventures of Stephen Grant, and they do the Mayan
Lunar God, yeah.
lunar god. Like you kind of like see where it's going,
Parallels,
and you
yeah.
definitely see what's going to happen in the next episode about his whole backstory, which I'm so excited about, and it
I'm
was so
excited about.
sad. Anyways, we'll talk about that next episode.
Yeah, so
In 2
I
weeks.
rate this one really high, 9.5 to 10 out of 10.
That's fair. I'm gonna rate it an 8 only because 8.5 because I still don't know what Harlow's whole situation is.
See, that doesn't really bother me that much because he wasn't really in this episode, so it makes sense not to know too much about it. But the other episodes, we should definitely have already learned more about his motivations and stuff. Like because he wasn't in this episode as much, I feel like it's not as big of an issue to have this episode with him with not knowing his full motivations, but it should have already been discussed in other episodes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyways, that's my rating. Sorry about
Okay.
the like rants and lectures, guys, but
Honestly,
I
I
love
love
this stuff.
it. I'm gonna keep the whole thing in because I love it so much, and I think people will find it fascinating. I hope people find it fascinating. Otherwise, our whole idea for the history show is gonna go out the window.
Right?
Anyway, so as we said before, next episode is our big Christmas celebration episode. So we're just gonna take a break from Moon Knight for one episode. We will be back with Moon Knight later at the end of the month. So like, share, subscribe, go onto our website, silvermagicstudios.ca. If you're listening to this on Anchor, we do have a YouTube channel, so go and subscribe to that. And we have other stuff like games and other exciting things happening in the works very soon. So stay tuned for that. Follow us on social media, Instagram and TikTok at Silver Magic Studios. Am I missing anything?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay.
Until next time.
Toodles.
Toodles.